Like when I am meditating, how am I supposed to be with that? What am I supposed to be experiencing? And so, from a mindfulness perspective, um, the meditation can be used in any way that we want to use it. We can use it as a training ground to practice um, expanding our ability to have somatic awareness, for example, which is what I've been playing around with. And it's quite natural to not actually be able to feel the body as a whole if we haven't been exposed to it over and over and over. We haven't deepened in that. The meditation could be to cultivate an attitude, right? The attitude of simply allowing ourselves to be receptive to our experience, even if it's an unpleasant experience. The meditation could be used as a place really to refine our awareness of certain aspects of how the mind works and how we relate to what's happening. That's another thing that we can do in meditation. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how it goes, as long as we're able to, I mean, actually, let me retract, not even if we're aware, we don't even need to be aware, because even if we're not conscious of what's happening, the nervous system is digesting and is processing all of the backlog of information that we've received and allowing it to integrate and the energies to move through for there to be a completion of our processes that oftentimes get cut off because we interrupt or we intervene or we simply don't have time. We just move on to something else. In terms of the mindfulness practice itself, uh, oftentimes we hear it as this thing called presence, right? And what is this presence? And this presence is just being here in a very simple way. It's the ability to be here and to notice what's happening. And while this might sound like a really simple definition, it's not that simple, because throughout moment by moment, our awareness comes in and out, or I should say, our conscious awareness comes in and out. One moment I can witness what's happening. Another moment I might become absorbed completely into what's happening. And there is no sense anymore of a separation where I'm still able to witness what's going on. So an example of absorption could be, the simplest one is when we're on our phone, that there's a moment where we actually get lost in it, that we don't notice we're holding the phone, and we have the perception that we're looking into an electronic device, right? Or we can get lost so easily in our thoughts. And this happens, and we're constantly coming in and out, in and out. And so having presence is actually a momentary thing where it's almost like we wake up and we're able to see even this process happening as we come in and out. And the more we're able to see what's happening, the more we're able to understand how it is that we operate. And so the report of noticing judgment of the inner critic intervening, or the report of noticing how we're relating to anything that's coming up, gives us information about what used to be unconscious processes. So we're starting to, in a sense, widen the scope of what is conscious. Whereas before, it might have laid underneath the surface, because there's so many things that are up here, almost like white noise, that it's hard to see what's actually happening. And so meditation is helpful because one of the things that we do is, not only do we find time and space to make contact with stillness, meaning We close our eyes to remove the visual information. We remove all the distractions. And still there's a lot of white noise, right? There's still a lot of white noise with thoughts. And then there's like the metacognition of noticing how we're relating to the thoughts. And then there's the thoughts that are giving all of these ripple effects of, physical sensations and emotions that come to the surface. So it still can get very, very, very messy. And for this reason, we try to find something to pay attention to that's not going to add to the messiness. And an easy thing that we can pay attention to is we can pay attention to something that's neutral, often in the sensory. So just paying attention to sensations, just paying attention to sounds, just being in the sensory field, if we don't have a relationship to that particular sensory field, could be really, really soothing because it's not generating more white noise. So there's a little bit of rest that happens. And in that restfulness, we're able to see a little bit more clearly what's actually underneath the surface, what's happening on the unconscious level. The analogy I like to give is if you've ever walked into a body of water that has silt or mud on the bottom, as you're walking in with your feet, all of that silt or sediment rises into the water and the water becomes turbid. And this is kind of like the state of our awareness, is that the more we move around in our lives and we create these residues, there's all of these ripple, physical and emotional and further thinking that happens that creates a lot of turbulence. So it's just really, really hard to see what our processes are. But if we stay still enough for long enough, those information gets digested and in a sense settles, and what you're left with is you're left with what's underneath. So that's one aspect of what we're going for in meditation, is just offering ourselves the space to digest the backlog of experiences. And within that, if we stay long enough, we're able to see things that we wouldn't be able to see before. Some of the things that we start to see is really uncomfortable. The inner critic becomes very obvious. How we relate to certain things by either not wanting them and then pulling away and then avoiding and coming up with a different strategy to not have to deal with it. Or if we like something, grabbing onto that state, trying to contrive the experience so it will be more like that last one, which was really good, so I can get back to over there. All of this is really informative, because what it does is it shows our tendencies of how we relate to experience. And most of our waking moments is not allowing ourselves to be with our experience because for whatever reason, it's not good enough, or we don't like it, or something else should be happening. And in the process of that, we miss out on actually belonging to our own lives. And so on the larger scheme, this practice can be also seen as a way to actually come back to our own lives and to participate in a way more fully, more engaged, more connected. And there is a sense of satisfaction that arises from being connected. There's a sense of completion. There's a sense of a homecoming, even if the experience is unpleasant. If we're able to get past the discomfort of not wanting what's happening, if we're able to stay with it without identifying with what's happening and making it about ourselves, or going to the story that it shouldn't be happening, or I did something wrong and this is why it's happening, or maybe it should be like this. If I'm just able to stay with the discomfort, what we discover is that the discomfort actually passes, that we're in this constant fluctuation or cycle of feeling comfortable and connected and then disconnecting or feeling uncomfortable. And it's just this continuous cycle of life. And the way we've chosen to live it is that we only show up for the bits that we really like. And the rest of the time, we're trying to fabricate a way to create more things that we like. And so we're caught in this delusion. We're caught in this alternative reality, and we're missing what's actually happening right here, right now. Now, to go back to presence, what is presence? Presence is being here. And what do I mean by that? Because it's very abstract. It's being here experientially, not conceptually. So being here experientially, if I were to say right now, your hand, what's it like to have a hand? Right? Probably immediately what happened was the image of the hand in the mind, not necessarily the sensation of the hands. Do you know your hand? Look at your hand right now. Touch your hand right now. What is the temperature of the palm? How does it feel to have other fingers touching the palm? Does the center feel different than the outside? What's the most sensitive part of the hand? Is it the front, the palm, or the back? How well do you know your hand? Have you ever taken the time to look at it? Notice all the creases, different colors. This is part of our body. We've had it our entire lives. So this is what I mean, is from an experiential, connected, intentional way of being with something. And just to address once again the hypervigilance. The hypervigilance, there is the awareness that is there, but the quality of the awareness is very choppy. It's kind of darting from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Right? There is, it's very choppy and it's very narrow. It's noticing this, noticing this, noticing this, noticing this. But there isn't a wide peripheral view of what's happening. And there also isn't a relaxation and an openness. Oftentimes, that hypervigilance is seeking. It's seeking for evidence of something, evidence of safety, maybe. So there still is, while there is the awareness that's available and there is the tracking that's happening, I would argue to say that it's still missing the potential information that would be available in the state of presence. And in order to have that broader, more peripheral global view, there needs to be a sense of safety, and there needs to be a sense of relaxation and a lack of fixation. Because the fixation narrows the attention down, and a lack of fixation, because I don't favor one outcome or another, or I'm not needing things to happen in a particular way, there's a larger or more global view. And so tone matters a lot when we're talking about presence. The attitude matters a lot. And that's the attitude of, I think I said play once, right? A real lightness, curiosity, no expectations. We're just showing up with interest. And that creates a certain quality that allows for the relaxation to be there, to be able to see more. And also more of a sense of connection, because the emotional tone is that of interest. And interest brings energy and vividness and brightness as part of the quality of awareness. And so presence has, yes, the attention aspect, but it also has very much what is the tone. And those qualities, we're talking about all of these different conditions, when they come together, what they do is they create this emergence of awareness, a quality of awareness that we refer to as presence. So you can have awareness without having full presence.